Right, hello everyone, this is our whatever number talkie this is, and we've just finished playing. So, I'm Peter.
This is Michaela.
And I'm Scott.
And we're going to talk about what happened previously. But first of all, in general, how was that?
Quite cutscene heavy, but I quite like the cutscenes. They sort of revealed quite a lot.
Lots of character development, I think, this week.
Definitely.
I think the notes as well sort of revealed quite a lot of the backstory. Like when you found Douglas's notebook.
All the cultish notes and scriptures.
But at the end of the last episode last time and the first episode of this time, we were leaving Brookhaven Hospital. And we travelled all the way back to the motel and we had that lovely cutscene with Claudia and Vincent arguing.
I'm not sure I quite like that one, as it sort of brought you away from the main character's perspective, and I don't remember it doing that often in the other games.
No, it didn't.
Which is quite
It's quite interesting that it does focus on the other characters more in this one, I think.
Didn't you? There had a moment in Silent Hill 1 where it kind of does it, where when you leave a building you get a flash of Alessa when she was normal outside of the shop that you have to go to. So maybe it's sort of like that, like Silent Hill 1 did.
Yeah, but in Silent Hill 1 that was a "go here"
it was just
neon
a flash,
sign.
yes. But yeah, I quite like the Vincent Claudia thing because it's letting you in on information which you don't know, and sort of they know each other, but they don't like each other, but they're kind of in cahoots, but they're not.
They do tend to bicker, it seems.
Yeah.
So the amusement park, were you amused?
I suppose so. The haunted house was quite interesting, quite fun. Yeah, and the game gets its one jump scare there. It gets one.
Well, it's sort of more than one, but the main one, yeah, it's the body dropping, isn't it? Yeah. And I liked the detail that it was actually a real corpse, it wasn't a prop.
Yeah, that entire place was brilliant. I loved it.
Yes, because I quite like how it's sort of blending in it is an amusement, but that it's Silent Hilly and it's twisted.
I did like the parallels to Silent Hill 1 it gave. Especially that note lying on the ice cream stand.
Yeah, actually one that was actually written by
Harry.
By Harry.
So is that what he was doing when he was saving?
Yeah,
Keeping a diary.
That's the idea, is that he was writing down a journal of notes of his experiences.
In random places.
Read it. Yeah, it's sort of a strange play on the fourth wall, which I think it does quite a lot, actually.
And it wouldn't be too inconsistent with what happens in Silent Hill, because people leave notes about all the time. Maybe they're saving the game.
Yeah, because it has that in 2 where you come across the dead body in the notes on the floor in the road, and they're him sort of saying what's happening and then saying to go run away or something.
So, well, we're sort of skipping around the episode, so I think it might be a good point to talk about breaking the fourth wall in general, which Vincent sort of does when he's talking about the monsters, and, oh, you see them as monsters, do you? And how you get a thrill from stamping on them and playing the game.
Yeah, it feels like he's talking to us rather than Heather.
It's more leaning on the fourth wall than outright breaking it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just sort of playing with that, the separation between player and what's actually happening in sort of Silent Hill. The same with the notes with Harry.
At least Heather seemed horrified at the possibility that she might be stamping on people's heads. Instead of becoming so jaded and cynical that it didn't really matter to her anymore. And she is a bit jaded a little.
She can be, a little sassy too. Because people make a big deal out of it, possibly a bigger deal than they should, but I think combined with something that happened earlier, because when you're talking to Claudia, she also mentions monsters, and you sort of go, what's with all these monsters? And she tells you that they're coming to watch the birth of paradise, or something like that. So there is something to the monsters, certainly, something that's going on more than there's just monsters and they're around. Maybe some sort of intelligence, not sure. Yeah, so when we first came to the amusement park, there was the big sort of snap of night. It just sort of happened very, very suddenly.
Made you feel like you spent quite a long time in that hospital, in the other world part of it.
Definitely, yeah. There's something about the passage of time in Silent Hill that sort of goes hand in hand. Because we've noticed as we've been playing through them all, again, that 1 to 4, certainly, and probably some of the other ones as well, there's a transition from day to night that happens in all of the games. So in the first one we start off in day, and then there's the transition to night, and then we go to the school, and then it's light again afterwards, and then Silent Hill 2 it slowly gets darker, and then evening, and then night. And the same in this one, the same with Silent Hill 4 as well.
The fog is a lot thicker in this one than 2. Barely see anything.
It is, I think at one point I said it looked more like acrid smoke than fog.
Yes, it does that wonderful moving
Perhaps from a
around
coal mine fire.
as well.
No, not from a coal mine fire. So we died in that episode.
We did.
The one with the roller coaster. It was interesting because it showed you what happens if you didn't... Because we died in the dream sequence in the beginning, and what you experienced there was essentially the dream sequence from the beginning before you wake up.
Oh, so it's a warning of sorts from the start of the game.
Yeah, it's like flashback gameplay. So you sort of play it the first time, and then you know you die at that point, so you try and do something different. In this case, you open the door to the button to turn it off.
I missed the key as well.
And you missed the key.
So I didn't have any clue of that happening at all.
Because the boxes fall and they don't in the dream. So the idea is that when you go back and revisit it, you're supposed to notice what's different.
Okay. But I just fell down the hole straight away.
Yes. But then even when you find the button, it doesn't quite work the way you hope it does, because it doesn't stop it, because it turns back on.
But Heather just does something different.
So we met up again with Douglas. Did you like that bit? You seemed to be hurt.
He did. I'm wondering what hurt him exactly. Because Claudia didn't seem to have it in her to break his leg.
But Claudia does have an established...
array of monsters at her side.
Yeah, I was going to say she has an established sort of habit of sending monsters out after people. She says on the rooftop, well, I didn't kill him, I ordered him to. He did the actual damage.
There's a lot of guns being pointed at people, but no one actually pulling the trigger.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot of reservoir dogs. That's what the mummy... No, they're not. So what about the carousel, then?
What about the carousel? I was half expecting Sybil to appear.
Well, that's the thing. It is supposed to remind you of Silent Hill 1. The whole area is. It's supposed to be... Well, it's a sequel. So it's revisiting those areas, which I don't think is too soon. Because like I say, I thought it was too soon to revisit Silent Hill 2. But Silent Hill 1, no, that's fine.
We could talk about Silent Hill 1 till we're hoarse. Yeah,
exactly. But the time is nigh to mention what goes on with... Sorry, the time is nay, I should say. To talk about the horse puzzle. So what did you think about that? Because there was the whole slaughtering the horses thing.
Didn't quite understand what it meant at first. I guess the clue is that the horse you find has been stabbed in the head. So
exactly, yeah.
I thought I'd missed a horse, actually.
Well, we sort of did, but it's really easy to tell which ones are living and which ones are dead at that point.
They stop moving.
They completely stop. They just freeze in their tracks.
If you skip the horses, do you just die outright?
Yeah.
Alright, so I didn't actually miss a horse.
So you didn't miss a horse. You missed a horse. I thought you meant you missed a horse as in you... Because you were doing it sort of methodically. You were going round, and then you didn't kill one, but you thought you had. So you had to come back to it. That's what I meant by miss a horse.
I thought I just missed a horse entirely because the carousel didn't stop after I killed the last horse for a few seconds.
Yeah, no, it's just a timing thing. You did it right. If you don't do it right, you do just die.
Okay, what kills you?
The curse of the horses.
I did quite like the effect afterwards, where it sort of drew all the blood in. It's very sacrificial. And
lovely use of the sort of the new technology that they sort of put into the game, where they could move patterns and images around on the characters in their engine. And after we finally killed the boss, how was the boss, by the way? What did you think of it?
Quite a lot.
Because it is quite a tough boss, I think, and the whole multiple incarnations thing as well.
As you saw, I mostly just stuck to the melee weapons. My ammo's getting scarce.
Yeah, we were saying it's probably been the hardest one, at least for quite a while, if not just the hardest one. It takes actually quite a while to defeat it.
Well, once I switched to the shotgun, it went down fairly quickly, but stab it in the back, saved ammo, and it's just resource trading.
And she left a note for you as well, which I thought was quite strange, that the whole idea of this other personality leaving a message for, in her mind, the other personality, which is you.
So Alessa giving a message to Heather.
Yeah.
Well, because it sort of is running on the theme that you're sort of viewing Alessa as the interloper a bit, where really you are, because Alessa's the first one.
But she's had her time. It's Heather's turn now.
Well, I'm not quite sure being prematurely burned to death is having your time, but...
Well, that was that whole Silent Hill 1 thing she did, you know. She got to be a god for a while, you know, lived it up.
And then we had the very dramatic thematic change when we reached the church.
Why didn't Heather pull the trigger in the middle of her dramatic speech?
I think she was too busy putting on her Alessa voice, which I thought was an interesting little...
Yeah, I'm not sure, was it putting it on, faking it, or was it a bit of Alessa?
That's the question.
Or is that why she doesn't shoot her?
Because she says she remembers the burned room as well, and she remembers being Alessa, and so she knows about the experiences, but she has a different personality. She also has a slightly different accent. Because you can imagine that Alessa would have an accent that would be closer to Dahlia Gillespie or Claudia. You know what I mean? So she does the voice, but is she doing the voice because she's trying to convince Claudia that she can override her as Alessa, or is she actually remembering being Alessa and becoming more like Alessa?
Yeah.
And the church sort of has the two sort of themes going along. There's the theme of the child. You have the childlike map, and the confessor talks about being a child in the eyes of what have you. And that combined with this sort of matriarchal mother cult. So it's sort of the mother-daughter symbiotic relationship that you have in Silent Hill 3. Do you think they got that across well?
They did, I think. All the little bits and bobs in the church sort of give the impression there was more to it than just, here's an evil cult, go shoot it.
So you thought that the order was quite fleshed out and quite interesting?
It gives it a lot of character.
At this point, I think we shouldn't trust Vincent. Is that just general commentary?
It's become more clear that he's using you. I was going to say yes, so I don't think we can trust Vincent.
Even if he might be using you, it might not necessarily be a bad thing.
Oh, same as I also like the idea that he does seem to be part of the cult, but it's the idea where it's the same religion, but you're arguing about semantics, which is sort of the thing that you have in real life in terms of religion, because there's offshoots based on the same thing.
There's a schism in the Silent Hill cult.
Yes. It gives it more depth.
But it's interesting what you said there, because you're right, he does seem to be suggesting that you both have a common goal in mind, and that in helping you, he's not manipulating you, he's doing something for the good of you and the good of him.
I just like the words he uses. The birth of his god would be inconvenient. What does he mean by that?
Well, because he's happy where he is.
I suppose.
That's the thing, he's got what he wants. So to do the god on top of that, that might be bad for him. So rather than take the risk, he's saying, it wouldn't be convenient right now, I'm happy where I am, I've got what I want. And there's a little bit more flavour on that in the upcoming episodes that you'll see as well. But we should probably leave it there, and we'll see you next time for more Silent Hill. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.